The Law and You, a look at laws in St. Vincent and the Grenadines which affect our daily lives. The Law and You, presented by lawyer panel P.R Campbell QC and brought to you on SVG-TV as a public service.
Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, boys and girls, greetings and Happy New Year. Welcome to another presentation in this public service nation building series, The Law and You. This is program number 923, coming to you on the 7th of January 2019. On this program, I will speak to you on the topic, Show Respect to the Courts. But before getting into the topic, couple preliminary remarks. Firstly, and as usual, my condolences go out to all families which have suffered recent bereavements. And in that connection, the family of the late Archdeacon James Adolphus Harry, he was laid to rest yesterday afternoon. Lovely service at St. Elizabeth Cathedral, followed by a delightful burial at Brighton Cemetery. Most of his family are here from England and will be going back shortly. And once again, we want to tell them how much we sympathize with them and their loss, but we are glad that their hearts were joyously increased. Their hearts were overflowing with all of the arrangements made for the funeral and the way everything went off. May you have a safe travels back to your various overseas destinations. And let me remind our brethren at St. Elizabeth that we have another funeral coming up, this time on Saturday. The service will be starting at 2 o'clock at St. Elizabeth. Mother Tina, of course, just a couple months ago we laid her son Clifton to rest, but that is how it goes. Now, I want with my whole heart to congratulate Dr. Cecil Cyrus on the achievement of his knighthood. Long overdue. In fact, I think at the age of 90, Dr. Cyrus must be the oldest person to receive honors from Her Majesty. Nevertheless, as the old people say, better late than never. If ever a man deserved a knighthood, Dr. Cyrus. And I'm so happy for him and his family, his wife Catherine. He has labored long, hard, and productively in the vineyard of medicine and medicinal services. And Dr. Cyrus, I want to say that on behalf of my family, I congratulate you on a justly deserved honor. Let me also congratulate the other recipients, including Mrs. McGill and Mr. Williams and Ms. Robinson. Congratulations to all of you who received honors from Her Majesty in the New Year honors list. I will close off with preliminary comments because I have decided some time ago to keep the preliminaries as short as possible. I know some of you like the preliminaries, but some would prefer me to get into the program. And here goes, and let me say good night to the brethren on Encounter, and I look forward to their usual enlightenment and spiritual upliftment to the nation in this new year 2019. Show respect for the courts. The first thing that has to be said on this topic is that it appears that, sadly, these are not days when people are inclined to show respect to others. And I want to refer particularly to those who drive vehicles in the night. Most of the drivers who drive in the night have no respect at all for other drivers, because even in Kingstown, which has an abundance of street lighting, you will find people at as early as 7 o'clock in the evening, when they switch on their light, driving at full beam, even in the city. And I have reached a stage of my life where I try to avoid driving in the night. It is too painful on the eyes. Everybody has their bright lights on, and some of these lights, thanks to modern technology, are brighter than ever, as if they burn right into your skull. So perhaps it's a forlorn hope to ask people to show respect for the courts. But for what it is worth, I want to persist in imploring you to have respect for the court system. And I'm appealing to all persons who use the court system, from lawyers to litigants, and all courts, not just the High Court or the Court of Appeal, but the magistrate courts as well, and indeed the family court. Whether you are a bailiff or a policeman serving process. Because in our democratic system of governance, the rule of law is of paramount importance. And as we all know, law is administered primarily through the court system, the judicial system. From time to time, you will hear people making disparaging remarks about this or that decision made in one of the courts. Usually, the people who make those remarks are persons who are not present in court at the time when the incident to which they are alluding would have occurred. So that every decision of a magistrate or a judge of which some people disapprove provides the opportunity for a tirade against that magistrate or that judge. Wise men have long since said that if we weaken the administration of justice, we weaken ourselves. Because in the final analysis, it is the administration of justice that keeps us from being killed, from otherwise being taken advantage of without recompense, without process. In respect of the topic, let me deal with some specific abuses which are visited on the judicial system from time to time, usually by the ignorant or the bad-minded or the jaundiced, but usually from persons who are not trying to build up the nation but tear it down. Political passion. In cases where political passions arise, persons who know very little about what they are speaking about have the most adverse comments to make about what has gone on in court. For example, there are the election petition cases still before the court. Some time ago, the Court of Appeal ruled that the cases should be heard expeditiously. But the cases are still before the court. And some people berate the system, blame the courts for the fact that these cases are still unresolved. If the facts were diligently looked into, then one would discover that the courts are the last institutions that should be blamed for the lack of expeditiousness in the hearing of these matters. But whenever there is a matter of great political moment, people react in accordance with their political persuasions and give blame in accordance with the dictates of party politics. I would like to let this country know that our court system in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, in its decision making, is as solid as any other court system I know of in any part of the world. Now, I am not saying that the courts are above criticism. Years ago, a judge famously put it that people have a right to criticize the administration of justice. But in doing so, people should be temperate and should try to inform themselves of the real facts of a matter, rather than being led astray by temper tantrums or by sheer naked passion. We can be justly proud of our judiciary in this country, even in the days since before independence. So they may not be perfect, but they try their best. Our judges are hardworking, and honest. They apply the law as they see it without fear or favor. No, most cases have two sides. And in most cases, one side wins and the other side loses. Usually the winning side rejoices and the losing side complains. I suppose that is human nature. But our judges here are second to none in their knowledge of and application of the law. Similarly, our magistrates, they try their best in less than ideal circumstances to give justice as they see it. And let me say this. It is no point saying that, in a certain case, a person got a fine, and in another case, another person was sent to jail for the same offense, and therefore something must be wrong with the system or with the magistrate. Nothing is wrong with the system or with the magistrate. Because as similar as two cases might appear to be, there would be important differences between them that could explain why there was one result in one case and a different result in another case. But if you don't know the facts, then you would wallow in ignorance and misguided comments. You see, in the magistrate's court and to an extent in the high court, sentencing has been subject to regulation by the high authorities. And there are certain guidelines which have to be followed by the court in imposing sentencing. There is a general rule, for example, in criminal cases, that a person who pleads guilty at the earliest opportunity is entitled to a remission of 1/3 of the maximum sentence for that offense. Sometimes a person pleads guilty, but not at the first available opportunity. Sometimes the guilty plea comes only after the prosecution has produced a situation in which defense counsel sees no alternative but to advise his or her client to change a former not guilty plea to one of guilty. So that unless you know the facts, don't go running your mouth and malign a magistrate or a judge for what you regard as an inappropriate sentence. Know the facts. Know what you are speaking about. And if you are not there in court to see and hear what would have taken place, be very careful about reports that you read, because very often court reports have inaccuracies and cannot always be relied upon to convey the full flavor of what would have taken place inside the court. Excuse me. another point. And I want to talk about the attitude of persons to court officials, specifically to bailiffs. Bailiffs in the judicial system, whether in the magistracy, in the family court, or in the high court or court of appeal, are normally subject to insulting behavior, to being maligned, and frankly, I don't know how some of our bailiffs can remain in that job for the length of time they have been in the job. But they go and they have a document to serve on somebody. And the person on whom they are attempting to serve the document might react in a violent manner. I've known cases where people sick dogs on bailiffs who are attempting to serve court process. All the bailiffs are trying to do is their job. They are given a certain number of documents and told, find Tom Jones and give this to him. Find Mary Richards and give this to him. I hope there's nobody named Mary Richards. I'm just using fictitious names. And give this to her. That is what they are paid to do. But when they attempt to do that, they are met with all sorts of reactions, sometimes with naked violence. And in the days gone by, there was a bailiff, I wouldn't call his name, but he had a licensed revolver. And he took no nonsense from anybody. You go and you offer him violence, and he would offer to defend himself with what he had a license for. He couldn't mess around. But we have to regard persons like court bailiffs as being an essential part of the judicial system. Because if there was no mechanism to serve documents on persons, how would people know that they're supposed to come to court to answer a certain charge or to defend against a certain allegation made in a civil plaint? Over the years, policemen have been used to serve documents on persons, mainly in the magisterial system. You have a complaint of a summary offense, and the police will have summons, they'll go around finding persons and serve them. When somebody hears that a policeman is looking for them, they go and hide. Or worse. But if a police brings a paper to you, your legal duty, once you are the person named in that paper, you have a duty to accept it. And once you are served with a paper of any kind by a bailiff or by a policeman, my advice to you strongly is to find a lawyer as quickly as possible to get legal advice. Sometimes a person receives a document from a bailiff, doesn't agree with what he or she reads, is annoyed, gets on a high horse, fling away the document or put it aside. And then 2 months after that, when push comes to shove, they're running to a lawyer. Well, at that time, a lawyer is hardly in a position to be of assistance to you. When you get documents served on you by court process, go and get legal advice right away. The next day, if possible, unless the next day is Sunday or holiday. But at the earliest opportunity, go to a lawyer with the document. Don't figure, oh, you know the law and they had no right to complain you and she had no right to say she bringing summons against you for maintenance. No, get legal advice. Because if you are right in feeling aggrieved that you should not have been served with that document, the lawyer will so advise you and would know what to do. But if you are wrong, you can't be wrong and strong. Get legal advice. Don't be guided by ignorance and by people sicking you on and trying to commiserate with you and say, man, tear up the thing, man. You know, she had no right to put you in court or he had no right to put you in court. And don't listen to people like that because when push comes to shove and you end up in Pocoteri, the same people who encourage you to be defiant would be the ones who laugh at you and say how you're dotish. So don't bother with that sort of obviously bad advice. You see, we have a system of justice that safeguards all of us. Our constitutional rights depend on having a proper system of justice. Let us build it up, strengthen it where it is not as strong as it should be, because it is what we have. And it is what has to serve us if we want to enjoy our democratic rights and freedoms. Today, you may be a complainant. Tomorrow, you may be a defendant. And you will want to know that the rules of the playing field is level. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. What's good for the complainant is good for the defendant. So I hope in this year, this new year, 2019, we would make a conscious effort to show more respect for our courts, our court system, and all our court functionaries, judges, lawyers, president of the family court, magistrates, policemen. On the whole, let us respect others. That way, we would be entitled to have others respect us. All right? All right, well, that is all from tonight's program of The Law and You, the first program for the year 2019. I look forward to being of further service to you next week, Monday, Divi, for another presentation in this public service nation-building series, The Law and You. Do have a pleasant week, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, boys and girls, and may the good Lord continue to bless us all.
The Law and You. A look at laws in St. Vincent and the Grenadines which affect our daily lives. The Law and You. Presented by lawyer panel P.R Campbell QC and brought to you on SVG-TV as a public service.